Today we've got free AI tools that actually work. Google made a lot of new releases. Some of them available today, some let you analyze videos, conduct deep research in seconds, and generate incredible images. Google made about a dozen releases in as many days, from Gemini 2.0 to a quantum chip breakthrough called Willow. This is your guide to what came out and what's useful. I'm Al, let's talk This Week in AI. Let's get right into what happened. We've got a lot to cover and I want to make it quick. Google started their release of their Gemini 2.0 family of models. They introduced Gemini last year, which was the first natively multimodal model, giving it the ability to understand images, text, video, audio, and they built on top of that. They're starting their releases with their Gemini 2.0 Flash model. It's meant to be the workhorse, fast, cheap, and surprisingly better than any model they've released before. You can see that in the benchmarks, we talked about how important those are in an earlier video. Their Gemini 2.0 Flash model in the furthest to the right column beats their Gemini 1.5 Pro, their old, large, big, powerful model, in almost every single benchmark that they've got. It's twice as fast as their last model and can handle text, audio, images, and video simultaneously. You can access it in the API for developers, in AI Studio for testing, and in Gemini Advanced for general use and on mobile. It's worth noting that Google's the best in the business when it comes to understanding images and video. You can see the Chatbot Arena leaderboard here, where they dominate in the vision category. They also introduced Gemini 2.0 Flash Thinking shortly after. This is their response to some of the deep thinking models like OpenAI's very expensive O1. But unlike O1, it can actually share all of its thought process as it solves a complex problem, which is a place where OpenAI doesn't share everything that goes on under the hood. And in this case, you can see it trying to solve a physics problem where it really does think about things deeply. Along with this new model, they released a few new tools and experiments showing what you can accomplish with it. For example, here's their interactive video analyzer that allows you to upload a video and actually use the AI to search within that video, get key moments, or even ask questions. You can use it to break down descriptions and more. This might be useful if you're trying to review long footage like maybe a trail camera and you don't want to spend the time to go through all of it. It can also give you some descriptions of those so you can review the text and timestamps. You could take a video of a whiteboard with a bunch of sticky notes on it and extract the text from those, which is something I know I would have used a lot in past brainstorming sessions. You can then use that text to do things like sorting them into categories or making a table. It can also be used to analyze screen recordings. So if you have an app that you want to walk through and you need a description to be able to share with somebody, you might not have to do that manually anymore. You can just let Gemini do its thing and share that with your team member or a friend. They also showed off Project Astra, which essentially lets you FaceTime with the model. Maybe you've got some questions about tags in laundry and want a little help. You can show it the tag, show it your laundry machine, and see what you can get. Or if you're walking by some interesting art and have a few questions, it might be a good option there too. Meanwhile, Project Mariner showed what's possible when you take the same capabilities but apply it on the web. This project starts getting you thinking about what might be possible if you had a really powerful assistant with you everywhere you went on the internet, and it wasn't limited to just understanding text but could understand visually what you're looking at along the way. They even had a quick demo on how it might level up your video game skills. Whether that was attacking in Clash of Clans and needing some help with your strategy, or if it was dominating in GeoGuessr using the clues around you. Now on the research side, they also released something called Deep Research. Deep Research is built to be your personal AI research assistant. The idea here is you can give it a subject or topic that you're interested in, and with the click of a button, it can go looking through hundreds of possible sources and put them all together into a report. That's also available today in their Gemini Advanced app, whether you're on the web or on mobile. And once you find some sources you do want to dive into, Notebook LM is great, and they released some big updates for that too. It's got a new intuitive interface where you can see your files, chat with it, and generate the podcast that it's famous for, even allowing you to call in to that AI generated podcast if you want. If you're curious on what it sounds and looks like, this is the podcast that was generated from my video last week on the landscape of AI video.
Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into AI video in 2024.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Definitely wild. We're going way beyond just Sora. There's a whole landscape out there to explore.
Personally, I love how they go back and forth, and it's a great way to casually explore something that might otherwise take deep focus to pull anything useful out of. Clearly, the research and being able to be truthful is on their mind. They released Facts, which is a new benchmark that tests how factual these language models are. They might be a little biased, but you can see that their models seem to rank near the top on truthfulness, which matters a lot in many different situations. Meanwhile, they also added new capabilities to their visual creation suite with state-of-the-art video and image models. My video from last week already out of date. ImageN 3 is state-of-the-art image generation, and you can try it today for free in their ImageFX tool. This is what it gave me when I was asking for a person with glasses, a black tie, and gray shirt holding an infinity gauntlet in a specific style. And I love how they have some drop downs where you can easily make some changes to the picture in order to get some variations without having to change anything else about the prompt. Like we covered last week, artist control is really important. And their second tool, WISC, leans even further into that. WISC lets you grab a style, scene, and subject, or any combination of those, and put them together or remix them. This is great for people who have some existing images or ideas that they want to combine. Some people online found out that you can get some pretty interesting results, like turning a character into a Pokemon, and it even works for profile pictures too. Now, to some people, the biggest news of the week was the new VO model, or their video generation model. This blew people away because it was a whole step better than anything anybody's ever seen. It seems to be able to simulate physics and recreate real life scenes in a way that's never been possible, and is night and day to OpenAI's brand new Sora model they released last week. It doesn't seem to be an outlier either. They've given access to a bunch of creators who are all echoing the sentiment that this is a crazy new step. With that said, it's locked behind a waitlist right now, so this is one of the ones you can't use today. And last but certainly not least, they also released a big update to their quantum chip. Now, I don't expect you to know a ton about that. I didn't when I read about it, but a couple headlines were, it did something in 5 minutes that would take the world's best supercomputer more time than has existed in the universe so far to complete. And one of the craziest lines I've seen from any tech company ever, it seems to apparently lend credence to the fact that we might live in a multiverse with parallel universes. More on that later. So, my take on these releases. I want to be clear, this week I've tested a lot of these tools, and while they're not perfect, there's genuine utility here. While OpenAI's been dominating the headlines, Google's wave of releases shows that the sleeping giants is waking up. They're starting to leverage their massive advantage in data. You can imagine that having 14 billion public videos on YouTube might help you make a good video model. And you knew they were getting serious when Google took DeepMind, who they acquired for $500 million 10 years ago, and finally merged them with Google Brain last year to have one unified team and architecture. That seems to have paid off because with Gemini 2.0 Flash running faster, cheaper, and better than their past Pro model, there's obviously been some major breakthroughs. Not only that, they're starting to make some actual useful tools. I think Logan Kilpatrick, who was the former head of developer relations at OpenAI and left to lead product of Google's AI Studio, has played a pretty big role in that. I'd recommend the follow on X if you don't already. We're starting to see glimpses of what's possible. TLDraw, who had access to the Gemini model early, has used it to start building a new type of computer that's fun to use and builds on their canvas, lets you click and drag, add different things together, and make some crazy new workflows. Vigo started using it to level up their already popular image and video replacement tool to some pretty funny outcomes, and others who are using it for many different things are starting to show some more evidence of what I was talking about last week. These aren't necessarily all AI companies. They're domain experts using AI to solve problems important to them. Yes, there are limitations. The rate limits for this new model aren't that great. And how they're going to monetize is definitely a question mark. Though if they can defend their search business, that gives them plenty of money to play with. I think it's hard to overstate just how much they make from that. Google's okay with betting on multimodal and supporting devs as the future. It might not matter that Claude is still a little bit better at writing. I'm personally really excited to see how these tools can start bridging the physical digital gap, and multimodal is key for that. When AI can truly understand images and videos, we unlock new ways where AI can help, not just in the digital world, but in the physical world as well. As these tools become more powerful in the text, audio, and visual domains, there are even more ways that they can empower you. So what can you do today? Well, you can jump into AI Studio right now. The video analysis tool we looked at is pretty wild. You can easily try out their new thinking model by selecting model on the side, scrolling to the preview models, selecting it, and just letting it rip. Use it for something silly or important and see how it does. It's free right now. You might be surprised by the output. It might not be great, but it might be just what you're looking for. Now, if you need to dive deep in a topic and do some research, head over to Gemini Advanced. It's paid, but they're offering a free trial right now. Once again, you'll want to come to the drop-down and choose the model you want, in this case, deep research. But then it's as easy as asking, can you do some research into personal knowledge bases, comparing all of the different options and the pros and cons of them with a view towards how it can look in the AI era. Hit submit, and let it start coming up with a little bit of a plan. If you like that plan, hit start research and it will start flying through up to hundreds of different sources and put them all back together. What that might look like at the end is something like this, where you can see all of the sources it checked out and it'll come with a report that was written. This text is still pretty AI sounding, but maybe a really great starting spot. Once you have some documents to dive into, that's a great place for Notebook LM. Sure, some of those new features are locked behind a subscription, but the free Notebook LM is really easy to use too. All you gotta do is upload a source, sources, or some links, like maybe the 1,500 page spending bill that was introduced in Congress. After you wait a second, you can chat with it or hit generate to have that podcast made in about 30 seconds or so.
Looks like we've got quite the challenge this time.
Oh.
Excerpts from a massive spending bill. We've got everything here. Rural broadband, election security, semiconductors,
Yeah.
music tourism,
Really? Music tourism?
even blockchain.
For the visual folks, you can check out their labs. Here they've got a ton of tools like WISC, which you saw a little bit earlier, but also below that, their Video FX, which is where you can join the waitlist for VO, and Image FX, where you can go get some of the highest quality generated images out, period, for free. Make some variations while you're at it, and maybe you'll leave just a little bit more inspired. If quantum's more your thing, power to you. One thing you might want to check out is Quantum Country. Andy Matashak, a researcher with a whole wide range of interests, including the science of successful learning, built a mnemonic medium designed to try and make it easy to remember what you read. You can learn about new concepts, and along the way, it will check in and ask you about some of the topics that were presented. You can answer whether or not you remembered it. I love this kind of thing. Or I'll always recommend reading The Beginning of Infinity by David Deutsch. He pioneered the field of quantum computation. I think it's so cool that he wrote a book that's at least a little approachable and touches as much on society as it does on quantum mechanics. Willow's breakthrough, while fascinating, is probably not going to impact your day-to-day life anytime soon. Pretty much everything I mentioned except VO is available now. And honestly, that's plenty to play with. Pick one tool that matches what you're doing today and start there. The best way to understand these tools is to actually use them. I'm excited to see what you create. I'm Al with Alex AI. Today is December 20th, 2024, and that's how I see it.